This week on RSBANDB Update, is it a Master Max cape or is it a page out of the full comp rework? We discuss the future of Master Max while looking at the most optimal path for completing quests in RuneScape. Then we discuss the rules of Fresh Start Worlds and update our progress. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 903, recorded Thursday, October 6th, 2022. Sir Tiffy's lap. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of RSBANDB Update. Tanis, you're here as you are each and every week, as per usual. Welcome back.
Thank you, Shane. Big week.
Big week. We continue the fresh start discussions as we progress. Community angles aside on this, it's moving along nicely, and it seems to be picking up more steam than we had in the previous week, so that's good. But of course, we do have an update this week, the Master Max capes, and joining us to talk about that is Pernasius, who already has 120 all. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And then we're also going to be in supplementing our Fresh Start coverage, but he has written a tool that has been floating around Clan Quest that determines the optimal path that you should take if you're hunting for your quest point. You can enter in some stats and whatnot, and it will tell you what path to take for the quest points. Welcome to Zerdones. You've heard him a few times before on the podcast when it comes to lore-related episodes and whatnot. Welcome aboard.
Hi there. Glad to be back.
And we are, you and I had a discussion about this in pre-show and a pre-discussion that we're going to try and keep the discussion on the quest point finder, the optimal quest point path, relatively simple for most people, because as we've discovered from this, you and I could probably talk about that for a good amount of time. People's eyes would probably glaze over rather quickly with that.
No advanced math required, promise.
Good. And that's what we like. We like to keep the math down to simple counting math. And with that, let's just start with the simple math of getting 120 in all skills, the Master Max cape. For 3.6 million GP, you can pick up a Master Max cape if you have all 120s, not just the real 120s, all 120s, including virtuals with that. And alongside this, and this is the part that looks the most interesting to me, we also have the Master Comp and the Master Trim Comp capes as well that come with this. And this feels like a smaller update, but we're gonna dive right into it. And Pernasius,
is it really, or is it something that we're getting pieces of?
Right.
We kind of wanted.
Right, and that's why I want to go to you first, Pernasius. What were your thoughts when you heard that we were getting this Master Max cape and it was going to be the all 120s, which is, and as Tanis was alluding to, a page out of the complicated comp rework?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. It's like, it's a piecemeal bit of what they promised us a while ago. I was excited when I first heard about it. What I did love, there was a nice little bit of lore behind it when you go down to sort of claim it, and you have to actually do a little task. It's not just go down, talk to someone, grab a cape. There's a little task you have to actually do first, which was great. I love that part of it. Not a big fan of the look, but hey, I understand the color, the reasons behind the coloring after you explained it to me. One thing I didn't like about it is I was expecting it to be the cape I just wear no matter what skill I do, so I would free up sort of 27 bank spaces because I can just chuck everything else on my cape rack. Unfortunately, it acts the same as the normal max cape and comp capes and such, where it only has the perks. Yeah. And people are going, oh no, it would have been too OP, but I don't think for skilling it would be too OP having all the perks on it, because it's just you're not doing 7 different skills at once. Yeah, you go between them. So it's just one cape you have to do, and they have that over in OSRS. Their Master Max cape over there is the one cape, just unlocks all the perks.
Okay.
That is the only thing I don't really I think they sort of dropped the ball on it. But overall, I thought it was a nice little update. Not the full comp rework that I wanted, but a nice little addition regardless.
Yeah, and Zerdones, is there any push after this cape comes out for you to make the move towards Master Max?
For me, no. I do think it's a crafty little update for Jagex, because I don't want to come off too negative. I'm sure that in the design process, the thought is, let's have a thing where we can, we have a lot of people who've been playing a long time who have got 120 all, like Parnassius, just because it's there, because it's fun. Let's give them something to show off that they've done that. But it strikes me as there is a class of person who wouldn't have gone for it before, but will now, because there's just a thing there at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's a really crafty way of keeping people engaged in the content without actually having to take skills to 120.
Yeah, and when you look at the cape, it's not, and I'm talking about the dev work that goes behind this, it's not something that's a hugely complicated update. Effectively what it is it's a cosmetic and an item that just has 28 requirements behind it, and this little thing that Parnassius was alluding to, where you use the blurite keystone and whatnot with that. So there's that too behind it, and I see what you mean about not wanting to come off too negative, because what I could say with this is that this is just filler content, in that it's a cosmetic with 28 requirements behind it, and I just wanted something to fill in October. But at the same time, it is definitely building towards that idea of taking things to 120. Tennis, do you have anything you want to talk about with this before I jump into the lore aspect of it?
Well, I just want to say that I can see how some people can have that perception, but for me, this is much bigger than that. This is responding to, skillers who have been asking for this for a very long time. This is, when you talk to Parnassius about the complicated comp rework, this was the one cape that I really wanted out of that. So yeah, it may seem simple on the surface, but this is really responding to a demographic of players that don't always get a whole lot of attention.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously we have the lore hounds, we have the questers, we have the PVMers and whatnot. We have the traditional, skillers who are going to be going out there and, just getting the 99s and training efficiently. But you're right, there's that whole culture of people who push for 120s and then 5.6 eventually. So
yeah,
if I may as well, just it gives another goal. I mean, I am a very goal-oriented player. I like to have targets that I chase. And I mean, I went for 120 just on my own. I probably would have gone for it earlier if this cape was a thing. Then it would, right, that's going to be my next goal after I got my comp cape. I just love having that goal, and it gives players. Yes, it is a reason for players to hang around, but it gives players a reason. Okay, I can now go for 120 and feel good about it because there is a reward at the end.
Yeah, and for me, that max grind, that max chase, it was special. Like, just to know that I had, back then, it was 99 and all skills. It's like every skill in this game I had achieved, that top level. And to basically have that kind of chase again, that kind of grind again, it renews it for me. And yeah, I'm going for him anyway, right? Like I'm ticking off a 120 as we go, but this is just that much more motivation. Once Fresh Start rolls back into the main game, and we're all firing up our mains again, I have a goal to really pursue.
Yeah, and Zerdones, did you want to say something, or you want me to carry on? From that?
I was just going to say, like, I'm quite goal oriented as well. Like, I went for the Master Quest cape because it was there, because I'm a lore player and it was there. The Master Quest Cape does have like additional gameplay rewards to it, which make it a little bit of a different thing. My thing is just there's two ways to get people to engage in skilling content post 99, like 99 to 120. There's two ways to get people to engage with that grind. One way is to make 99 to 120 content like we did with, like we saw with Farming, Slayer, Archaeology, Dungeoneering, whatever. Option two is to dangle a carrot at the end and say, just keep doing what you were doing. Come get this carrot. It's a lovely carrot. And maybe it is a lovely carrot. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just think it's very crafty.
Yeah, and for me, the question about it has always been, does it make sense for me to go for 120s and skills that aren't real 120s in that same way, unless I really, really like the skill? Because what am I getting aside from the cape at the end? And I realize a lot of people, and I think this argument was made last week, that when certain skills like Hunter and whatnot came out that ended at level 71 for 6 months or so after launch, there were still people who pushed for 99 in that 6 months because it was something to do as a result of that. And, you know, considering level 71, that's not even 1 million XP out of 13 million. These people were redoing that 13 million XP in Hunter 13 times before there was content going to 99. And even then, Hunter was kind of an empty skill. And I'm focusing on Hunter a lot because that's been in my mind with Fresh Start and whatnot. But it was one of the skills that came out and was effectively, half done, or I guess 1/13 done, if you want to count it based on XP with that. So I'm still conflicted about this cape. I like the way it looks. I personally don't see myself going for it right now, but it's not something I would ever, completely rule out. So
I think also it is a good foothold to start. Okay, how many people are going to do it? Is it going to be worthwhile doing more skills to 120? And that's what I'm really hoping that we will get out of this, is I'll see people sort of doing that grind and they'll start developing more. I mean, my personal thing was things like Big Game Hunter would have been sort of the perfect way to sort of start introducing 120 real skill in Hunter. Player-owned farms at the time, I mean, I know it goes to 120 now, but that at the time would have been a good way to, okay, now you're 99, you can have your own farm and do that type of thing. I want to see all skills. I mean, I'm excited about a new skill coming out next year. I would rather see skills that aren't great other than, they're not really useful in game other than getting a cape from.
Right, and that's the point that I'm coming from on this, is that is it more than just a cape, right? So.
Yeah. And at the moment, that's all it is. It's a cape.
Yeah.
And as I said, my one disappointment is it doesn't unlock every perk for you. I'm hoping they may revisit that in the next few months. That they'll copy the old school way there, and you can just free up those bank spaces, and rather than 27 capes, just have one cape. But we'll wait and see. Yeah,
and it's not just a cape because there's lore behind it. You talk to Minerva in Falador Park, and we were kind of wondering, is this just going to be an update that kind of walks in quietly? But the cape is stored in a tomb, and the trinket you were talking about that you need to make it is a blurite bar, 3 rubies, 4 emeralds, and 2 sapphires. You combine all those, and you effectively make the keystone that opens up the tomb. And when you talk to Minerva, she says that it was a tomb of someone special for the city of Falador, and her family has a history rooted in the very foundations of Falador, even before the castle was there. The person in the tomb served King Radalin faithfully, who we've heard about in very, very early RuneScape lore. They traveled to every corner of the kingdom, helping with unification of what became the kingdom of Asgarnia. And throughout this person's travel, she learned everything from various tribes and villages, talking about, of course, leveling all those skills up to 120, mastering everything taught. And as Asgarnia flourished, and I'm quoting here from the dialogue, she continued to serve her king before eventually passing unto the light of Saradomin forever to be remembered, and the person's name was Myra. And with this, before she passed away, to mark her place in history as a gesture of all she did for the king, she was honored with a cape made from, quote, the most magical thread, and it was enchanted as such, who they say was by someone who is lost to the history books, and the enchantment prevents anybody not worthy from wearing it. And so the idea behind it is to be worthy enough, you obviously need to have all those 120s, and Minerva continues the legacy by passing on what Myra started, and following from that, that's where the Master Maxcape comes in with this, after you insert the keystone with this. And this is what, of course, we were talking about when the new skill line started, is that they said that there was going to be lore going back into RuneScape kingdoms and such, and how those all interacted with each other as time progressed. And this is what we have here. And obviously, Daughter of Chaos has been heavily focused on the Zamrag versus Saradomin proxies, let's just say, and the Daughter of Chaos quest. But this one actually delves a bit into the history of the kingdom of Asgardia, and that's the direction that we said they were going to go in terms of just kind of getting more down to earth and getting back to the RuneScape kingdoms kind of storyline. And this came from a Master Maxcape, of all things. Not a mini quest, not a quest, not a skilling method, but the Master Maxcape. And I was walking into this update thinking that this was going to be a simple update, but I think they justified it enough with lore that I'm happy about it.
Yeah. What I did love also is when you open the casket and you go back to Minerva and say, hey, there's nothing in there. And she goes, do you think I'm really going to let you rob and desecrate my sister's grave? You buy the cape off me. And that's where you fork over the 3.3 mil and get the cape. Well, that was a nice little touch. You don't just steal it off a dead body in the casket.
Yeah.
A casket, which I might add, which they've ripped out a pond and destroyed the environment for all those ducks and all that living there to build typical humans.
I want to ask Zerdones about the lore aspect, being a Master Quester and Clan Quest person and whatnot. How do you feel about them inserting lore into something so small as this?
I'm happy about it. I like having that integration of lore. It makes it feel like it's part of the world, and it makes the world come alive a little bit more. So I appreciate it. I hope it's a teaser of what we can expect when the Daughter of Chaos storyline wraps up, that we can get more into sort of the kingdom history and inter-kingdom relations and things like that.
Yeah,
I hope it's a sign of things to come.
Yeah, and there's people, of course, who still want the gods around and whatnot, and I think they're gonna have a tough sell on that for them. But nonetheless, it's an interesting angle to take with this from an update that's called Master
I will
Max.
say I was a little bit miffed that they got rid of the pond, not just because of appreciating the ducks, but because the statues around the pond are the statues of the fallen heroes from While Gothic Sleeps.
Yep.
And those statues still exist in-game. They exist in other places, but it's still a bit of a shame to lose them all in that one little circle.
Yeah, and for the people who were around when While Gothic Sleeps came out, that was a big deal to have those statues put there. So,
because before that they were just empty plinths. Before you do the quest, they're just empty plinths, and then they have these statues of these characters.
And I'm trying to remember, and I assume you and I will be learning this at some point soon. Do they mention that they're going to build the statues in While Gothic Sleeps at all?
Oh, I don't remember. I think they do.
Yeah, so hopefully they changed the quest dialogue on this, but they're normally pretty good at that. So
I will say that the statues do exist in-game in other places. Each statue exists in a location that's appropriate to that character. So, Hazelmere has one in the Gnome Stronghold, and Gomal has one in front of the Warriors Guild. but also the statues that line the bridge to Falador Castle. Before Walguthic sleeps, they're just generic white knights. After Walguthic sleeps, they become, the fallen heroes.
Okay.
So even in Falador, they are still around.
Okay. Well, that's more than adequate then on that.
Yep. I do like that even though Mod Warden has gone, his vision of having lore behind all the updates is being upheld. And that's what I do appreciate. Yeah, I mean, I didn't like the positioning of where they put it, and ripping out that pond and all that, and losing those statues. But yeah, I mean that having that lore and that is upholding that vision, and that's what we need. I think the lore is very important in the game, and we need to make sure that we continue on with this and let them know that this is part of the update that we love.
Yeah. Another thing that came with this is you can actually now sit on the benches in Falador Park.
Including sitting next to ? Sir Tiffy?
Or sitting on top of him. You do get an achievement for sitting next to him.
Yes.
But you can sit on top of him if you're so inclined.
I think you do by default. Apparently, I was reading, I think it was on Twitter, that was flagged as a bug in QA, and it was decided it wasn't worth fixing.
We're gonna go sitting on Sir Tiffy's lap. I'm doing that right now on the video version if anybody wants to see it.
It is quite funny.
Oh, it's hilarious. And there's an achievement for it as well. That's wonderful.
Turn a bug into an achievement. Yep, love it.
and there's obviously when an update like this comes out into game, there's going to be some issues along the way. You can't put the cape on the cape rack in the POH. Not yet. Any other issues that you've run into with this Pernasius?
No, it's the same with the when you upgrade your comp cape, it also cannot then be put on the cape rack. That doesn't cost you anything. That's just a matter of showing it to her and it upgrades. That's a very basic thing to do. But yeah, I don't think there was any real bugs or anything about it other than those two. As I said, just a nice little update. A couple of little things I would have liked changed, but overall, it's a much appreciated one for me.
All right, sounds good. And then this really raises that question again, and we dove into it a bit last week on this. I feel like this is a wider topic that maybe even warrants a monthly bit. I don't know. What do you think, Tanis? Does the discussion about the 120 playstyle virtual or not warrant a further discussion?
I mean, I could always talk about going to 120. Yeah, I'd always entertain that, but I do just want to echo what Pernasius said. I do think it's important that kind of Mod Warden's legacy has stayed alive, with having each update kind of intertwined with lore. It's all a part of the world building, which just makes this game richer in the end. It doesn't have to be a quest that gives us these story elements, and I think it's really important.
Yeah, it really is with that. And I was, and once again, I went into this week thinking it's just going to be a very tiny update, but obviously we have the lore angle that can be pulled on in the future. We have the achievements, at least one of them, for sitting on the bench, and just in general, the paths that this could open up, and whether or not this brings forward that discussion about, well, is it time for true 120 alls where we just stop calling them virtual and all the skills go to 120, whether or not there's content there? Is that something that happens with that? Obviously, they can't do that for combat because that would throw things out of whack in terms of combat level, and that they're not going there presently with that. But overall, 120 all through the Master Maxscape is here, and for it provides a tangible benefit for people to go towards. So you're going for it, Tanis?
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely.
All right, Zerdones.
No, not
Okay.
anytime soon.
All right, Pernasius, go ahead, and then we'll.
One thing I would like to say is on that working towards 120s, they don't need to do full reworks like they did with the mining and smithing update. They only have to work on that sort of 99 plus, or even 90 plus, or 95 plus, that sort of top end. Low end, you get through it all so quick anyway, and there's nothing really useful that's going to, long term in the game for you. But, reworks as such, I think it is long overdue. But yeah, as I said, they don't need to rework the whole skill. They can just do additions like Big Game Hunter or player-owned farms, tack them on to the end and make that the 99 to 120, or just rework sort of the 95 plus side of things.
Yeah, and that's what I was afraid of coming into this, is that we'd go down that whole path again where we need to have that full discussion about, what is a skill in terms of endgame in RuneScape, and are people comfortable with this repetitive loop of going for 120s even though there's nothing there? And then the question then, and I'm just making the final point here on this angle, is that if there's nothing there officially in terms of the skill going to 120, you get it virtually. What do you do after that? That's question one. And number two is, should said skill be taken to 120? After that, you automatically have all the unlocks on that, and for me, that would kind of feel bad for me, because I like getting those little unlock benefits as I level up. But on the other hand, I guess you could see it as a benefit in itself that you're ready to go should your favorite skill go to 120 at some point. So overall, I think that's a good time to move on, and I think when it comes to the 120s, we're looking at something that's going to be an update that people are going for, looking forward into the future with this. Because I've heard people going for it who weren't going to go for it before. And I mean, if that makes people play more RuneScape, I think that's, let's be honest, that's what the end goal of every update is, right?
Absolutely.
It's true.
So, all right, we do have a few patch notes this week while I sit on Sir Tiffy's lap. So, characters who have PvP disabled can no longer use the intercept ability on players with PvP enabled.
Wow, that's a good way to troll people.
Moving on from that, special attacks no longer have an internal cooldown, matching the player's attack speed, and this allows special attacks to be cast back-to-back when using slow weapons. And what they mean by slow are the weapons that are actually classed as slow, taking I think it's 2.4 seconds between strikes on that. So this isn't going to mean a lot to a lot of people who aren't reading this, but for people who do combat, in particular manual combat, and use special attacks, they're going to feel this. So it's, from what I understand, one of the changes that combat people have been looking for a long time.
Will this have any impact on Essence of Finality?
They say special attacks, and I'm thinking if it was impacting Essence of Finality, it would have said that, because I think the way it's written is that Essence of Finality is an actual ability imparted by that amulet, whereas special attacks have always been a different class entirely with that. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking this is just the actual special attacks on weapons. So,
yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah. All right. Moving on from that, we do have a couple of JMod departures this week to announce, and obviously all these people have had an influence on the game that we play. But this week it was announced that mods Dio, Lord, and Raven are departing Jagex for other jobs. You guys have any opening thoughts with this, Tanis? You want to go first?
Yeah, it's always sad anytime, a JMod moves on. This stuff doesn't, I mean, it doesn't make me get all up in arms. It really is how this industry works, but we will feel the loss, I think, of Raven, just because he has been so instrumental through storylines and just his wit and writing in Quest, that he will be missed. But I'm glad for their own personal opportunities, and I don't think people should take it as a sign of anything other than they're getting other opportunities in their lives and they get to move on.
Yeah, and just in terms of the roles these folks filled, Mod Dio was a web systems developer and also voiced Laniakea. Mod Lord was the audio director for RuneScape and Old School and had been with the company since 2011. Wrote many songs, including the Book of 1,000 Songs, the Sea Shanty instrumental, and so on and so forth, that has been performed many, many times live at RuneFest, and a lot of the very typical bread and butter RuneScapey feels that you can hear whenever you turn the game music on, Mod Lord would have had a huge, huge impact on. So he will continue to be part of RuneScape with the music that he composed. And of course, I don't think we need to say what Mod Raven has been involved with, but he wrote a lengthy post on his Twitter where he talked about starting in community support, the 2010 Halloween Black Sabbath event, killing off characters and such, as we have had tons and tons of discussion about on the podcast before, and of course bringing the player-owned farm into existence and the character of Granny Potterington and prehistoric Potterington as well. So, obviously, with this, all three of these JMods have had a huge impact on the game, and I think the ones that people are going to be looking the most over is of course Mod Raven. And I think anytime you mention Mod Raven, I just go back to the announcement of the Ranch Out of Time and his RuneFest presentation announcing that. So that's going to be the Mod Raven memory, much like the Shanty instrumental is going to be the Mod Lord memory for me. So, and I feel like we have to kind of just pull on the thread as well. And I know we were talking a bit about this previously, Zerdones, that when you're in the software industry, 10 years is a long time for a company, specifically one in the games industry.
Yeah, games industry specifically, software in general. You don't stay somewhere for 10 years. It's very uncommon.
Yeah, and with this, there's always going to be the discussion. Of course, is something happening internally? Is there a mass resignation going on? And this seems to be the general direction that the community goes whenever somebody resigns at Jagex. And we need to be 100% clear in that these people are running their own individual lives at this point and are making the decisions about where they want to go next. And they don't owe us anything in terms of saying where they're going, what they're going to be doing next. And, in terms of many companies, it's absolutely amazing to see goodbye messages like this as well from these people who worked on RuneScape, which is something that I think that is just because the RuneScape community is so front-facing that the people who work at Jagex do sometimes, out of courtesy, they definitely don't need to. But I think that by the community running down the bandwagon of saying, hey, there's definitely something going on here, I think that's putting the cart before the horse, and we all need to realize that we're getting to the point a year where these moves are going to start to happen, and they might have some leave built up where they're able to effectively take the rest of October off and then have some time before heading into the holiday season and whatnot, and then start up at a new place in December or January, depending on what their personal situation is. That's just the time of year that we're getting to with this. And that's one of the things I posited going forward about what could be going on with this time of year in particular for this. And I just want everybody to kind of just take a step back and realize that just because 3 people left Jagex doesn't mean that the sky is falling. And if you're listening to this and you disagree and you have a very good reason for that, post it in the comments and we'll definitely have a listen to what you have to say on that. But I don't really have anything else on the departures, but go ahead.
I think it's worth emphasizing that I feel like the charitable read for why the community reacts the way they do when a JMod announces that they're leaving. The charitable read on that is because it feels like we see this as a player. It feels like we don't see this in other games. But I think it's important to point out that Jagex and RuneScape have always been, I shouldn't say always, but in the last several years have always been had way more developer contact than pretty much any other game.
Yeah.
Because it's very uncommon, for instance, for random developers to just go in and answer questions on the subreddit or on Twitter, ask feedback. It's very rare in other games to have like a Mod Sponge equivalent.
Right.
Who's just doing his job and saying, hey, I'm working on a thing, give me ideas, what do you think? Oh, this is why I did it this way. You don't see that in other games.
Right, and sometimes that's even caused problems for other JMods when they do that in terms of, just taking the community feedback too literally on something when in reality there is a design process going on behind the scenes, but at other companies it's just down to that design process. And the devs are using the information that's given to them by CM and analytics on that, and that's where Jagex is different in that regard. So
most other games, the interaction is filtered through the CM team. You don't get that direct player to dev interaction that we have. So it feels a little bit more visceral. It feels a little bit closer just because we are closer than we are in other games.
That's actually a very good way of describing it, and I think that that's probably why the community reacts the way they do. But had we just had the CM being the central focus, you probably wouldn't even know these people were leaving.
Yep.
So
exactly.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, it's like, hey, RuneScape's dying. I've been hearing that since I started the game back in 2011. These mods, we see them on live streams. We've seen them at RuneFest and all that, and they do become part of our life. Mod Raven, Mod Osborne, Mod Mark. 3 of my favourite mods. 2 of them are now gone. One we haven't heard of in ages because he's working on a new secret project type thing. But people move on from jobs. We've all done it ourselves. As you said, and especially in this industry, 10 years is unheard of, and most of them generally hang around 2-3 years before moving on to something else. So to have them here that long does make it feel more, it's more hurtful, especially someone like Raven, who you follow on Twitter. He's such a funny guy. He brings a lot of comedic talent to things, but good luck to him in his future endeavors. To have hung around this long is, shows the love he had for the game as well, being able to do the things he's done. But, sometimes it's just time, and, he's decided that this is his time and he's moving on to, bigger and better things for himself. How dare you do that to me? Yeah. But,
And that's the thing. There's just such passion coming from all these people that you can see that anytime you talk to them. And, I'll just share one Mod Raven story, and then I'll come back to you, Tanis, to wrap this segment up. But at RuneFest 2018, Sirion, myself, and a couple of other people, I think Tycho was there, in the lineup to just go into the building, we talked with Mod Raven for 25 minutes, despite other people around wanting to chat with him. And that's just the kind of person he was, that you're in effect able to just instantly have that connection and talk with someone for 25 plus minutes because of what they've built and because it's related to the game that you play. And we had a wonderful conversation because it was just earlier the month before that the player-owned farm launched. So I just wanted to share that story about that. So, Tanis, any thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I just want to say, like, I think Zardone's had a good, has a good point. I can't think of one name of another developer from any other game that I play. Like, I can't think of anyone's actual name. And we thought, well, not us, but let's just say the community at large thought the sky was falling when Mod Osborne left, or when Mod Warden left, or when Mod Shawnee left. Those were all big losses. We felt that, but the game continues, and I think Zerdone said it best in pre-show. Gallagher's left 10 years ago and still have a game. So if that could happen, I think we're going strong. But hey, what a testament to this little game, right? Where we get to know these guys, and they care about us, and we actually care about them.
Yeah,
we feel it when they leave,
and that's the thing, and that's always what that always makes RuneScape interesting compared to other games. So, and
if I just could, I'm just reading this letter off Mod Raven. He says, I'm not gone completely. I will still be here tweeting about stories and sharing my random thoughts. I'll even try and start my universal updates again, refreshed with a new beginning. So he's still going to be talking about Jagex and updates and all that occasionally. So, he might be gone from our game, but he's not gone from our hearts.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing we always see is that a lot of these people always maintain a connection to the RuneScape community, whether it's directly or indirectly, and I know that's happened for a lot of the JMods that have left. So we'll just keep that in mind as we move forward on that. But before we talk with our fresh start update this week, I want to just thank our Patreon supporters for this week. In particular, I'd like to thank Alaska, Amos Reed, Anatoly D, Andrew C, Arvids L, Bear Down, Beekeeper Steve, Big Huge Rat, Bryflex, Chunk the Monk, Psychol RX, Diana, Drama Free, Plaza Man, Free Milk, Giami, Gila Floor, Jacob G, Jade Gizmo, Jason S, Jeebus, Jesse W, Jim M, Ling01, Lucky Ducky, Malinoric, Mohan V, Nate the Great, Nick G, OTR Gamer, Pernasius, Ricky A, Rippeth, Samuel FL, Skiotan, Scott DS, The Shirt Pants, Stub Eve, Tabby, Tanner JW, The Naked Captain, Tom V, and Zant. Thank you, everybody, for your support. It truly means the world to us in terms of allowing us to do what we do. Last weekend, we just held our monthly round table, had a fun discussion on everything Fresh Start Worlds, and started production and kind of clued the Patreon supporters into what's happening with the next monthly bit, which is 21 years of RuneScape told with 21 quests. We're going to go through each year of RuneScape, talk about what quest represents that year. It's going to be a fun one. We started production on that. Think of it as kind of like a mini quest tier list almost, because it would be very hard to tier 200 plus quests in about an hour. So think of this as kind of like a mini quest tier list. And I'm talking a lot about the monthly bit, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that you get, starting for as little as $1 a month. You get everything that I've been mentioning thus far, the monthly bits, the ability to vote on the monthly bits, and of course you help fund the cost for hosting and production of RSBANDB Update. We also do have a VIP tier for $3 a month where you get a special VIP rank on our Discord, including chat channel access and high-quality stereo versions of the show. And for $5 a month, you'll receive a shout-out each and every week on the podcast and gain exclusive access to the outtakes we use to make the clip show at the end of the year, which I can guarantee there is going to be one or two this week from pre-show. So, with that being said, thank you so much, everybody, for allowing us to do what we do here. It means the world to us, and you can check us out at patreon.com/RSBANDB. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care. All right. Fresh start, and fresh start is going to continue on, and I'm getting ahead of myself because we're all fresh starters here now. But we have to discuss Zerdone's quest ordering system first.
Yes.
So did this come about because Fresh Start Worlds, or was this something that you just felt was needed?
Substantially Fresh Start Worlds. So I was always kind of intrigued by the RS Wiki has a quest strategy page, which is sort of their attempt at something like this, where it's, how to do quests optimally as quickly as possible. And I was always kind of curious about that. I started following it for old school, but I didn't get very, very far. I hit fishing contest and tried to get over the mountain as a level 3, and that went poorly, and I just sort of never went back. But yeah, so Fresh Start World sort of made me want to look at this a little bit more closely and say, hey, can I speed run a quest cape? But as I was going through the list, I saw that they had a couple of, I don't want to say mistakes, but there's a couple of limitations. So one, for instance, is some early quests have rewards that you're not told what to do with. So you guys were talking about the Violet quests last week, and Violet is Blue and Violet is Blue 2 both have quite hefty rewards.
It's 15k XP between the two of them in a skill, right?
Yeah. Combined, yeah. So it's quite hefty, and the wikis page, it doesn't even mention, doesn't say what you should use it on. Another issue is it hasn't been updated since City of Sandiston.
Okay.
So nothing post City of Sandiston has been added to the list. And other than the Violet quest, other than like some of the novice quests that have come out, like Violet is Blue, Heartstealer, everything from about Desperate Measures on is just sort of thrown on the end, even when it might make sense to put earlier on.
Right, because those also we had a clean break in there too.
Yeah, we had a clean break. So Daughter of Chaos is a really good example. Daughter of Chaos has a 40 divination requirement, and it's a novice quest. You can do it very early, like 40 divination, 40 archaeology, no quest prereqs. Those are the only requirements. You can get that in an hour
on Fresh Start.
Yeah, you can get that really quickly, and it gives you 50,000 divination XP and 50,000 archaeology XP.
Tannis, Did you do this?
No.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to make you feel bad or anything. I just have to ask.
No, I'm such an inefficient quester because the quests take me so long that, I just feel like, I don't know. For one, I don't hate me, but I don't enjoy doing them.
That's fair.
A lot because it takes so long. But I do the ones that I need to make my skilling better. Like I did Family Quest or Family Crest because that made my skilling better. Things like that. I definitely have been doing.
Okay.
Pardon me. It's actually 30,000, not 50,000.
Okay, but still, that's a substantial amount.
It's quite hefty. And you need to get up to 80 divination for one of the later elf quests. So it's definitely a good one to do early on if your goal is to reduce the amount of training. I saw these things, and
who do you think is going to find this useful?
Well, I am, and I hope people like me are. To be honest with you, I made it for myself, and then I thought, hey, this is kind of cool. I'm going to share this with people. And one of our other clan questers is also doing a quest cape run on Fresh Start Worlds, and he was very interested in it. A couple of other people reached out saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if it did such and such,
I did that.
You did that? You did indeed. You gave me some good ideas for enhancements.
And that's one of the wonderful things about being able to code in general and understanding how you can in effect build software, is that if you find you have this niche that you need to scratch, you can probably spend some time on this and get something rough up and running. How long did it take for your first draft to build this?
Oh, a few days. I was sort of poking at it. I'm not going to have the history on my computer, am I? I was poking at it for a couple of days, for sure.
Okay, all right, fair. And with this, one thing I want to ask with this is that obviously you've been mentioning a lot of the clan questers who are wanting to do quest runs and such with this, and I guess the idea behind this is that we end up with a more optimal path of questing than what the wiki says, and we're applying a bit of an algorithm to do that, to lay that path out with that, and it might be different than what people think on that. So I guess with that, I just want to talk a bit about how it works if you want to go there, or is there anything else you want to talk about in terms of who might find it useful, or what your main reason for building it was aside from the quest run?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like the only other real reason for doing it is just that because this is my job and this is who I am as a person, I do kind of get sucked into projects like this. So it just sort of grabbed my attention, like, hey, could I automate generating this? And then I just sort of had to put it out. I had to get it out of me.
Right.
I had to put this thing out into the world.
So how does it work?
So how it works. So the goal is the goal when I set out, and there are sort of sub goals that people have asked for that I haven't quite implemented yet. But the goal when I set out was starting from level 3, 0x or whatever the minimum XP is, 1,000 Constitution XP. Starting from there, how do I get to a quest cape doing as little training as possible?
Right.
So that's my goal. That's my target.
So what you've effectively done is you've created an optimization problem.
It's effectively an optimization problem. Although, if you want to get technical, I think of it more as a graph order problem, a graph traversal problem. And I promised I wouldn't get into. I promised I wouldn't get into the ancient runes, and you have sucked me into the deep math. But so at the highest level, the way it works is when I start out, I'm sort of maintaining two structures. So I have a list of quests, and for every quest, I know what its prereqs are, both quest requirements, skill level requirements, combat level requirements, quest point requirements. Some of those I have in not as that aren't like actual requirements. So, for example, a lot of things the wiki says, hey, 43 prayer would be really handy because that's deflect melee or protect melee, so that'll help you for the fight. So to avoid front loading a lot of really heavy combat challenges, I sort of just put that in as like a fake requirement.
Okay.
So that sort of changes the balancing a little bit.
Right.
And then it also tracks for each quest what rewards it gives, or what XP rewards.
Mm-hmm.
And quest point rewards, of course. And then the second thing I'm keeping track of is the current state of my player. So I have a little player object, a little bucket of player that I throw XP into, and keeps track of what my XP level, or what my XP is, and all of my skills. All my non-elite skills. I'm not tracking invention.
Right. So effectively, as you traverse this graph or path to completing these quests, you level up your player, and then you optimize based on that.
Yep, essentially. So the algorithm itself, there's two main parts to it. So part one is basically every quest that I have the requirements for, do. And when I say do, what do means is make a note in a list somewhere, hey, do this quest now. And then I look at the rewards that it has and I apply those to my player. And so I should say at this point that quest rewards come in a couple of different categories. So some quest rewards are just you do the quest, you get, like Daughter of Chaos, you get 30,000 divination XP. You just get that. there's nothing else to be done.
Yeah.
Some quests, you get a lamp, and you rub the lamp, and it says, I'm going to give you XP in a skill. What skill do you want it in? Tourist Trap is an example of this. At the end of Tourist Trap, you get like 2,000 XP in 2 of 4 skills you can choose. It's like agility, thieving, fletching, and smithing, I think. So you have a choice. You have a choice of what skill it goes into. So any of those, anything where you can choose, I don't apply that to my player. I just sort of put that into a separate list.
Okay.
And I come back to those later. So I go through, I do every quest I can. As soon as I can't do that anymore, I go to phase 2.
Oh,
phase 2
okay.
is, now I can't find a quest. I have to level. So the way I do the leveling is, first I go through the rewards that I've sort of stockpiled, and I say, okay, what combination of rewards will get me closest to a quest? Like, what's the smallest number of lamps I can rub, and what skills do I put those lamps in to get me closest to a quest? And whatever that is, I do that. And if I am now able to do a quest, then I go back to part 1. I do that quest, whatever quest that has opened up for me, all that. If I've gone through all this and I still can't do a quest, then that's a training break. And I just say, okay, here's my gap. I put in my little strategy list, train agility to 55 or whatever it is.
And I'm just running through the list here right now, and it doesn't say go train X skill to that. It just or no, it does. Okay, I was just
it does.
And this is the really interesting part, is that I put in my fresh start levels on this, and I can complete probably about a third of the quest list before needing to do any actual training. Based on what I have right now.
There's quite a number of quests you can actually do without a single training break. I will say
my first one is Fur and Seek with agility to 25.
That's the first one it tells you to. It's probably, well, I mean, with your current skills, maybe.
Yeah.
But if you do this blind, there is actually one earlier that you need to train.
Okay.
Which sort of leads into, I think, something you want to talk about a little later, which is where I want to go with it.
Yeah.
First thing I want to do with it is fix all the bugs. Yeah, there's a lot of bugs.
Because I put, and this is one that and this is just the way it goes when you're kind of writing prototype-based software, is that I put in all the quests that I had done, and I was sitting here waiting for 5 minutes, waiting to see what was happening with this, and I messaged you on this, and you said this is likely just an infinite loop happening in the background because it doesn't. What was it? It didn't know where to go or something, right?
Yeah. So the first iteration of this, I didn't have any input. It was just, I ran the script and it printed out this 500,000 whatever line list of do quests. Because I wrote this for me, I wrote this to generate from a fresh start account, starting from nothing, how do I get to a quest cape? And I put this onto the Clan Quest Discord and said, hey, this is a thing I made, isn't this cool? Shower me with praise. And I think it was Drazu, came to me and said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you could say, these are my current stats and these are the quests I currently did? And it will tell me from there, how do I get to Quest Cape? And I thought to myself, oh, that's pretty cool. But it was getting close to Fresh Start World launch, so I wasn't quite willing to spend a week sitting on this to do it properly, so I just kind of hacked that together very quickly. And there are some bugs.
Okay, is that what led to the problem I was having?
Yeah, I think that one specifically, the problem is that for tracking quests, the initial quest state, it populates the list of quests on the player, like the list of completed quests on the player, but it doesn't apply quest points.
Oh, okay.
So that means that there are some quests you can just never do.
Like Dragon Slayer would be one of those.
Like Dragon
right?
Slayer. Yep. Dragon Slayer, Heroes Quest, Tears of Guthix, Legends Quest. think there might be a couple more. So there is, because the initial algorithm was just with this very niche use case in mind, I didn't build in any, there is no route. You cannot proceed. You have given me an impossible problem. So it just runs forever in that case. So that's a bug. That needs to be fixed. Another bug is if you enter in with no stats, one of the earliest quests, I think it's like the third or fourth, is Gunner's Ground, which was the replacement for Romeo and Juliet.
Okay.
And if you look at the list, it doesn't tell you to train anything. But Gunner's Ground has a level requirement of 5 crafting that you're never told to get.
Right.
So that's a problem. I haven't nailed down what that is yet. I suspect it's a problem with when the player has 0 XP in a skill. It's not detecting the prerequisite, or it's not
that could
properly
be something
checking.
Just in terms of 0 representation in your Python.
Mm-hmm. It's possible. Another problem, Gunner's Ground is actually a really good example because that is another problem, is Gunner's Ground gives you a lamp. The quest reward is a lamp that gives you, I think it's 5,000 XP in any skill level 30 or above.
Okay.
But if you follow the strategy that it tells you, it says put it into smithing. But if you follow the strategy, you have level 1 smithing. So you can't put it into smithing.
Right.
And I know why it does that, and I should have thought of it when I was doing it. The reason it does that is because I worked, like, when it figured that was a lamp that it put into the list to check later. And at the time it checked that list, you had 30 craft, or you had 30 smithing.
Okay.
So at that point it said, aha, I can apply this lamp to smithing. But because it's not a lamp that you can reclaim, like if you try to destroy that lamp, it says you can't get this back. So you have to use it immediately. Or you don't have to, but you should use it immediately because you can't bank it, you can't get it back. If you leave it in your inventory, you limit what content you can do. Like you can't do dungeoneering, for instance. So you should do it immediately. So my algorithm said, okay, you put this into smithing, and then I'm going to take it way back in time to when I finish the quest, and I'm just going to kind of insert it right after the quest.
Oh, okay.
But that doesn't work.
No. And with this, what's happening with this is, and the reason I asked you to go through some of the problems that we're having with this is to show that, when you craft one of these tools for yourself, and when you craft any piece of software, you're going to run into these sort of things unless you're extremely test driven. But I haven't met a person.
I have no tests.
I haven't met a person that claims that they can write 100% perfect software on the first go. I don't think that exists. If somebody thinks that exists, show me.
Only the most trivial of things.
Yeah, but anyways, that's beside the point here. What this is, and I think the most interesting part about this is it, in effect, shows a different way of imagining the RuneScape quest list. And this is something that I've thought of before, and I don't know, Tanis, if you ever thought of it as kind of, thinking of it as a path that you can take rather than, like you said, just focusing on the quests that are going to, give you the most bang for the buck skilling wise.
I mean, it's something that I would like if they didn't take me so long. Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't dislike the story. I think the stories are fun. And yeah, if it just didn't take me too long, for right now for me, it's not very efficient play.
Yeah. And another thing that's in here that surprised me to see is that you actually have complete task sets.
Yes. So I actually only have the Fremennic task set in there because that is you have to do up to the hard Fremennic tasks for Blood Runs Deep. But I do have a bunch of things in there that aren't quests. So I put in all of the mini quests that give rewards. And some of those are required, like Battle of the Monolith, you have to do.
Yep.
It's a prerequisite for City of Sintistan. But others, they're just in there because they're cheap ways to get lamps, basically. But that's actually another thing I want to fix in the future, because there's in my program, there's no distinction made between a quest, a thing that I have to do, and a task, a thing that I can do.
Right.
So I actually started putting some of these in, and I think I put in the all of the Lumbridge tasks, the beginner, easy, medium, and hard Lumbridge tasks, and I tried running it, and I hit an infinite loop. I don't know exactly why, but there was something in there that was too advanced for what the program could handle. Like the skill requirements were too high for what the program could handle. And it said, it just knew that this was a thing it had to do. I've got to fit it in somewhere. How do I fit it in?
You also have Dungeoneering Sagas in here as well,
Yes,
which
sagas, yep.
which I have scratched my eyes out metaphorically for in the past.
Really?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like the saga.
No. They haven't aged well, and they just no. I don't. But
well,
that's
okay. I haven't played them in a while, so maybe gameplay-wise. I like them conceptually.
Okay, fair enough.
I really like... I will defend Vengeance as a piece of art. As a piece of gameplay, maybe. I might give you that one, but as a piece of art, I think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
But that's maybe a topic for another time.
Yeah, it is. And one interesting thing here, the tool for what I put in has you completing the Elder God Wars arc before completing the Myrek and Within the Light and dare I say
yes.
at the end, Sliskay's Endgame, amongst other things. And if we go to the very, very end of this track, the last three quests that says are the Light Within, Children of Ma, and Sliskay's Endgame should be the last three quests.
Yep. Well, because Light Within requires 80 in a whole mess of skills. Children of Ma, that also has high stat requirements. I don't remember them off the top of my head. And then Sliskay's Endgame, of course, is probably the hardest quest combat, I would say.
Okay.
It's either that or Nomad's Elegy, but I think Endgame is more challenging, my opinion.
Yeah, and I think what we just need to be clear is if you download Zerdone's tool here, expect that there's going to be changes for it. Expect that if you put in your complete list of quests that you've done, you might run into the infinite loop problem.
Yeah,
like I have.
Very much a beta.
And is this something you're going to continue to iterate on and move forward on?
Yeah, I think I will. There's definitely some things that I want to improve. Some things I want to fix up.
Yeah. Okay. And it's hosted on GitHub, which is the open source repository that a lot of people
it does require
use.
a little bit of technical know-how to get running. Not too much. I tried to make it fairly easy.
Does it work on Windows?
Yep, I run it on Windows.
Okay. Fair enough. I just had to ask that. Yeah, I guess you could install Python there and do that. I would love to go more into the algorithm on that, but I'm afraid we'll put people
we will bore
to sleep on that and the graph theory behind it and whatnot. But I did take a cruise through your source code earlier, and I was able to see what you were talking about in terms of the graph traversal and such with this. I guess I just want to ask Tanis and Pranasius any questions for Zerdones here on the quest path, RsOptimalQuestOrder, you're calling it.
I
very creative
love
name.
the sound of it. I think something like that would be fantastic for Iron Man accounts too.
Yep.
Not just these fresh starts. Because that's one of the biggest things in Iron Man, earning your money, earning your levels and such, and being able to do things. I'm actually following the one that is on the wiki at the moment. I'm up to 40 quest points on my. Yes, I know to people out there who know me that I said Fresh Start Worlds was not for me and I was never going to play it and such. You can thank Shane and Thaxi for that. But yeah, I'm just following that, and there are some you think, well, why are you throwing that one? Like it put Dragon Slayer on early,
Yep.
and it says you can do it with these things, but I just keep running out of food. And obviously you can't just go and buy higher level food. So the food that I can eat, I just don't have enough. I don't die. I can get through easy enough, but I just run out of food before I get LVAR down enough. So that's what I'm working on now. Fishing to get higher, get tuna, which should get me enough to get through the thing. So it's, we need something. I mean, Wiki's good, but it is really just a very basic guideline, and something like this, which is more suited to your individual play, sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
What you were talking about, your Pythons and all that, I have no idea. It was like Chinese to me, but hey.
Tannis, any questions?
Nope, I think Pernasius summed up kind of what I'm thinking.
All right. Sir Jones, anything you want to mention with this before we move on to our fresh starters for the week?
I will just say that no snakes were harmed during the creation of this podcast. Thank you.
All right. Sounds good.
Oh, I do have one thing. One thing, and I know that this probably doesn't exist in this tool. I'm not asking for it to be. I don't want you to stay up late at night, but...
Stay up late and not do it.
But did you know how like on Fresh Start it's 25 points per quest point?
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder how that works out, like in the order of do these quests in this order for the maximum number of Fresh Start points.
Well, with that, and
I would essentially be ordering by quest points. It wouldn't be that hard to do.
Yeah, no, and you could, the simple way of doing that would just be to look at the RS Wiki list of quests and sort it by quest points and see which ones have requirements on there. And I can tell you that in terms of the quests that give more than 4 quest points, very few of them actually have requirements on there that you can do, and it's easy to get those early quest points with that. So, but I'd imagine, and this is, I think this is also something I asked for is, could you say that I want to, reach I forget what it was. I know one I asked was, what is the most optimal route to get to X quest? And I think the other one was, what is the most optimal route to get to Plague's End or Prif? That was one thing I asked for the tool to do. And I think the other thing that I was thinking in my head, and I don't know if I asked for you, is, what's the most efficient way to use quests to get levels around a certain skill and whatnot, which, again, you would just sort it based on XP rather than quest points, and then go based on the requirements of those, much like you would for quest points, I'd guess. The quest list.
You'd have to sort of have a back... You'd have to make rewards a bigger part of the algorithm than they currently are.
Yeah.
But I think I would have to do that anyway. I don't want to take too much time because I will very much spiral on this.
Yeah, and I know the feeling with that. It's that idea of, I'm going to make this tool, it's going to start out doing 2 or 3 things, and then by the end you got a whole different idea of what it's gonna do with the feature creep and whatnot, and you spend the ages optimizing for the perfect algorithm and whatnot, and it's very much puzzle solving in that. So I had to hear you talk about that on the show, and as much as I had to resist the urge of going deeper on the graph stuff on that, but we'll save that for other conversations with that.
Yeah, happy to.
We have some fresh start things to catch up on before we go into what we've been doing on this. And Tannis, did you realize that last week we didn't actually talk about the buff schedule that's coming out? Believe it or not.
I was a little surprised, but at the same time, we're just excited. I mean, we're having so much fun that I could see how we kind of missed it.
Yeah, so I want to go over some of the buffs that Fresh Start has, because there's very interesting things when it comes to combat accuracy and whatnot with that. So we're going to start with that right now, because in the first week we had the 50% XP boost in Tier 1 auras, which we talked about. I think it was after the show we got to that we were like, oh my god, we have access to all the Tier 1 auras.
Yeah.
Yep. Saved my butt in a couple of quest fights.
On week 2, we have the 50% accuracy boost. And in week 3, we're getting a 75% XP boost for skills below 70, and the skills above 70 retain the 50% XP boost. And we get the tier 2 auras. In week 3, we don't know what the XP boost is going to be, but we get 20% chance to gather double materials. And then skipping forward to week 5, tier 3 auras, free deaths, more chance to double gathered materials. And then things get interesting at week 7, where we have the 20% chance to double monster drops. And throughout all this, on week 6, we get a plus 100% accuracy boost in combat, which effectively doubles the accuracy of your weapon, which really means that you can get by with a tier 70 weapon in terms of accuracy. Your damage will be a little bit low, but then when you start looking at things in the 80s, like Lanicaea's Spear, tier 80 accuracy, tier 90 damage, you're going to be hitting really hard with that, and you're going to have accuracy that's well north of tier 95 accuracy if you're able to snag a Lanicaea's Spear. So the accuracy boost is something that us PVM folks are greatly looking at for when that arrives in week 6 with that the 100% accuracy boost, but the 50% one is nice as well. And these are all detailed on the wiki, and we'll learn what the XP rates are going to be as we head into each of those weeks. So I just wanted to draw special attention to that because we didn't get a chance to do that last week, and these boosts are not something that should be sneezed at. And it really, in effect, kind of, I think, feel like it kind of rounds out the fresh start experience. So,
yes, and please, somebody, use your boost to kill Dagannoth Kings, because I really need a hatchet.
You can level up a bit and go there.
Oh yeah. I mean, I could.
And, that's going to be some of the fun early PVM that happens is Dagannoth Kings and whatnot. And I've already seen people doing 5-mech Archglacier and whatnot, but of course these people are the higher level people who have moved through the elite dungeons and such with magic. Also, just a couple mention of some of the boons. The Boon of Endurance provides infinite run energy. Boon of Regeneration has been helping us lots in terms of healing through the desert is one thing Thaxi said, and one thing I've been using it for is regenerating prayer points when using my Blessed Sickle to gather mushrooms in Mort Mire. So do keep an eye on the boons as you level up and ensure you claim everything that you're entitled to.
Yes, they're very helpful. Someone was saying that the Boon of Regeneration works even with Soul Obelisks in Menaphos. So if you're getting Menaphos rep, that it's quite helpful there.
Right, because
so
I guess that wouldn't
because
I guess that wouldn't put you in combat, eh?
Right, it's not a combat stance.
So it's able to work with that and just heal the environmental damage that you get. Nice. And this is why we talk about optimal paths for questing in terms of quest points, and I think this is what you were alluding to, Tanis. Is that why you wanted this, to maximize the early fresh start progress that you get from that? So.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the rules a bit. They highlight the catch-up bonus in terms of what we just highlighted in terms of the weekly XP boost, but there's something I want to talk about here in the rules that is different than the main game, and people should take note of this, is that for Fresh Start Worlds, transfers between accounts are not allowed. Your Fresh Start World game account is a standalone account, and any form of transfers between accounts, including transfers of virtual currencies, rewards, balances, microgame credits, and virtual items to other accounts, is expressly prohibited until you migrate your Fresh Start Worlds game account back to the main RuneScape game. This will happen automatically at the end of the Fresh Start World game session, or you can migrate your account at any point prior to that, which you should so choose to. This is interesting, Tanis, because it means that you can't have a bunch of mules running around gathering archaeology materials or doing other things and then feeding one account from the looks of it, if I'm reading this right.
I mean, sounds like how it reads, although I don't know how that's supposed to be policed. And
Well, I know it's actually being policed because I have actually gained farming levels without actually doing any farming overnight because a few people have been banned from the farming table. So they are definitely policing this. There was somebody who got 99 farming and was later banned. I assume they were involved in one of these transfer between account things. And I've also gained some other ranks with that too. So my guess is that they're watching this like a hawk.
But what is the difference between trading a player and having two monitors where you play yourself? You're playing the game is being played. It's not a bot account. It's another account that you paid for, but you're playing the game. So I don't know. I mean,
I don't understand.
It doesn't affect me, but I don't know if I love it.
I'm kind of glad that this is in place.
Does this mean that I can't, like, if I do Dragon Slayer and I happen to get extra, extra dragons or something, I say, hey Shane, love the show here, take a couple of dragons, that we can get banned? I'm just trading you a dragon?
I don't think so, because you're a different person.
Because you're a different person.
But if Shane had two accounts...
Like if I was running two fresh start accounts, one that was, one that did magic on the first day, and then it was camping dragons to get dragon eggs and selling them to people farming, or just giving them to my alt, I would see that as being the problem child.
I can't imagine that's the case, because that's a huge part
just say
of...
it's your brother. You say it's your brother, or
exactly
right, and that's the thing. This is definitely new for Fresh Start, and
it seems weird the way they did that.
And I don't necessarily know if people knew this going in, and this.
I can guarantee they didn't know it going in,
right? Because this is a page that's posted in the terms and conditions, and let's honestly ask how many people read the Fresh Start World's terms and conditions before starting.
No.
So this discussion is interesting because you shared this in Clan Quest Discord earlier. I think it was yesterday.
Yeah,
or it might have been today. I don't know. Time is a lie. But I read this, and my immediate thought was, "Oh, this is for those people standing at Berthorpe Bank saying, DM me. I'm transferring gold."
That would make more sense to me. It just.
Right, and that's the ambiguity behind it, because you can read it in the way that I just went through it, that you can't feed accounts with it, or you can't have more than one account, or it's for the people who are swapping gold.
See, I have to imagine that one. Because, if the intent was you can't trade between two accounts on Fresh Start Worlds, they can just make trading impossible.
Yeah, they could have just made it an Iron Man race for anyone then.
Yeah.
So basically,
what they could have done.
So that's like you could buy gold or sell your gold on the main game to get gold credits, like they do with old school and that.
Right.
Okay, now I understand that.
But the thing with that is that I've seen people doing this in Berthorpe, and I'm not entirely sure they're getting banned. So I don't know if this is being enforced, or if this is just, hey, this is nice, this is a rule.
That would make more sense to enforce than the alternative, because it's such kind of a core part of RuneScape. And if you are playing each account, you're not botting, you are playing each account, you're putting into playtime, you're paying for membership. I can't imagine why that would be in any way against the rules.
The reason I can see is because it kind of defeats the intent of the competitive phase, where the idea is to have it like as pure as possible of a race.
Precisely.
But at the same time, like you guys mentioned earlier, like how do you enforce that?
Exactly.
Like how do you tell the difference between a trade between a player and a mule and a trade and a trade between two players.
Right, because you can look at IP addresses and whatnot, but even that's limited in such because there are ISPs that present on the internet as the same IP address.
Right,
like Nancy said, it's my brother. I mean,
it's my brother. It's my dad. It's
yeah.
I set up an account for one of my pugs. He's really intelligent.
Exactly. I mean, okay, I don't even see how it takes away anything competitive. If anything, you have to compete twice as hard as someone that's just focusing on one.
Yeah, you're really paying attention. You're running two accounts.
Yes. Like, we're not necessarily saying there's anything wrong with this rule, whether it's to prevent people from muling their accounts or whether it's to prevent people from gold swapping. I think either of those are right to be enforced if that's what the terms and conditions say, because we might not like it, but we agree to these terms and conditions when we make the account.
Well, like I said, I mean, it doesn't affect me anyway. I only got the brain power to play one account at a time. This is all I got. But I mean, to me, it makes more sense gold swapping because otherwise, this is like saying, marijuana's a performance enhancing drug. I mean, come on. It's the same thing. Like, no.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so important that there be a little bit of clarification on this about what's happening on this. And I haven't seen any yet. Obviously, we're heading into the weekend, and it's notoriously hard to get answers to this sort of thing as we go into the weekend. But it's definitely something I want to hear more about, and I just wanted to bring it to the community's attention on this.
But if it is gold swapping, ban those mongrels.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so hard to earn gold on this at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. With that, let's talk about what we've been doing on Fresh Start. Then we'll start with you, Zerdone, since you're guesting with us here.
Sure. Well, I mean, you know what I'm doing. I'm questing.
Yeah. So basically, you're just running through the quest list, training as you need it.
I'm questing as hard as I can. As of start of recording, I'm at 255 quest points.
Woo!
Wow.
Damn.
Jesus. Sorry.
Yep.
That'd be impressive, dude.
I have no idea.
What are we looking at in terms of completion for this? When are you looking to complete this?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm starting to hit a wall because I'm starting to hit more training requirements. Because there's a lot of quests that have very, very low requirements, are very easy to complete. So I'm starting to hit quests that have sort of higher requirements, are a little bit trickier to do. I suspect I'm going to hit a major wall when I hit the combat heavy quests.
Yeah.
So I'm already sitting on Curse of the Black Stone. I think I'm holding off on that.
It requires 3 elite dungeon runs on story mode at least.
Yeah, so I think I'm holding off on that until I unlock lunar equipment, and then I'll try that.
Yeah, and that's something that has come up in the combat theory crafting, is that lunar equipment is probably going to be the best bet for Magic for anybody wanting to go on a budget when you factor in the accuracy buffs that are on the way.
Yep.
Granted, you'll be locked to tier 70 damage, but it's an easy Magic's power set and wand. So,
well, I would say the lunar staff is probably not worth it. Like, stick with the Challenger staff, because the Challenger staff does go up to tier 80.
Yeah.
Like, at tier 60, I don't think there's a difference between the Challenger staff and the lunar staff.
Doesn't the Challenger armor go up as well if you've got the
it
defense?
It does.
It does, but it's all class. It's not power armor.
And the staff is free air runes, too. I mean, don't forget that.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
And the reason I say, aim for tier 71 and such is that I just have a strong objection, and it's probably fine for questing, but any sort of serious Magic-based combat, I just have a strong objection to stabs based on the way the abilities with some of those work and whatnot. But that's a topic. For a different show. Okay, so that's a second quester as part, or third quester as part of the RSBANDB contingent. We got you, Jingles, and Daxi on that. Okay, that's fitting into the typical RSBANDB wheelhouse.
Oh, and since Tanis was asking about progress points earlier, I am just shy of 14,000 progress points.
Well, with how many?
13,
Damn.
13,910.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
All right. We'll continue to check in with you because you've got a wonderful start on that, and we definitely want to follow some of these progressions as you go in terms of how you're able to get so far ahead and out there. Obviously, I think we've proven this week and now last week, definitely without a doubt, that starting with Quest is a surefire way to go on that. So that's good. Pernasius, I didn't think we'd be coming to you for the fresh start update, but lo and behold, you made an account on Wednesday. How's it going? What do you think? Joining us week 2.
I'm actually loving it. I mean, the main reason, I was listening to you and Thaxi just chatting in the RSBANDB chat, talking about things. I'm going, oh, geez, it sounds good. I really regret not starting day 1 now. But I started on Wednesday. Mainly because I'm making 22,000 Dragonstone necklaces at the moment on my main. So it's just sort of something to do and train up while I'm sort of running those. And I'm just having a lot of fun. I've been doing a bit of training. I've got levels on everything except Dungeoneering and obviously Invention at the moment.
You missed a good discussion last week on low-level Dungeoneering and low-level skills.
Yeah, I figured that way, but I'm just not a big Dungeoneerer. Dungeoneering's something I have to feel like doing. And I play this game for fun, so I'm not running for, I'd love to pick up a pet or two to get a halo over one of mine. But just having a lot of fun, just training everything. I've got pretty much all skills other than, let's have a look. Well, obviously, I'm working on magic, so that's at 41 at the moment. My other combat skills are under 10, but everything else is over 10 other than fletching. Just having a ball. I've been doing some quests. Now that I've got some levels up, I can do some quests. I got 40 quest points. Wednesday night and then last night, I just went in and just knocked out a few. I tried Dragon Slayer last night, but as I said earlier, I just run out of food. I get her down to about a quarter of her health left and just run out of food. So
Elvark is tough.
Yeah, I've got 926 XP left on fishing, so I can then go and do tuners. So hopefully tuner will get me through. But yeah, other than that, just having a ball. I don't understand the hate on this. Okay, it is people saying, oh, it's a money grab, but let's face it, Jagex are, they're not a charity, they're a company, they've got to make money. This is a great way to make money. Exactly. A lot of those charities are, 90% of it goes to the pockets of the people running them anyway. But, yes, great. They're making money out of it, which is going to, help the main game as far as I'm concerned. So I don't see the hate on it. It's great fun. I love the way the levels go up. I only sort of found out last night about the rewards you can get with the armor and the staff and all that type of stuff. So that's been great. And, just with all those progress points, you can sort of speak to him and just get a whole lot of rewards. I think it's really well done. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And for someone who was not against it as such, but wasn't going to play it and didn't see any sense in it, having a go at it really converted me and got me on board. It's almost like there's a community perspective that was impacting not necessarily you, but a lot of people, because that's been the general sense that came up with that. That's the problem with community as a whole. Twitter says something, so everyone says it. My one was basically because I couldn't see sense in a game that runs for 4 months and then gets switched off. But hey, that's 4 months of fun that I can have. So why not do it? That's a quarter of a year, knocks over some time. Let's go and do it. Yeah, sounds good. Before we move on, what's the biggest wall you've run into on your
play?
Only Elvarg.
Okay.
Oh, and sorry. The seeds for trees and things like that. Which is why I'm sort of getting
We're
my
not
magic
farming
up.
with trees right now. Not yet. Maybe in a few weeks.
Yeah. So I want to get some levels up there. That's why I'm after dragons, just to try and sort of see, get some of those higher level creatures that I can.
I'll make you a deal.
I'll
make you a deal. If you come into dragons, I'll breed them and make breeding pairs for the both of us.
Yep, sounds good.
And that's
you can have my first set before I get there, because I'm still only. What's my farming? My farming is at 24, so very slow. Just doing rabbits and tomatoes and things.
And that's how we do it on Fresh Start. We did pre-record with Axie update about what he's been up to, so let's hear about that right now.
Hello. Back, just quick check-in, since, keep people updated on what's going on in the Fresh Start side of things. My week has been fairly uneventful. I am, again, just super busy life-wise, and have my goal for myself was to get level 30 in all skills, at least, and then to just do every quest on my quest list until it ran out, because there's so many early quests that are not worth a whole lot of quest points, and just feel good to just get grounded out, and I think I want the quest point cape anyways, so currently working on that. Dragon Slayer is up next. I sorted my quest list by region, so we're currently arriving in Varrock, so I'm going to have to deal with that. I'm very excited to get that one in the rolls. Otherwise, relatively uneventful. The biggest thing, like Fresh Start wise, has been digging into the boons a little bit more. Like when I was training summoning, getting summoning charms when you have low combat is not a very straightforward process. So what I ended up doing is I used the banking box, which is like this lovely right-click option where it deposits everything else in your inventory except the box, and I went and killed a whole ton of cockroach soldiers. And then in the middle of that, because I was on a Slayer task for most of that hour, I jumped down to the Lumbridge Catacombs and was banking a ton of stuff out of there. Super quick way to bank a ton of bones, a ton of small salvage that doesn't come noted, a ton of spider silk and carapace from the cockroaches, just all this stuff that's unnoted and is really potentially good XP or good gold, even sold to shops instead of out, but you wouldn't pick up because it's takes up inventory space and banking time isn't worth it. So it's super neat. One of those just weird little Fresh Start things that I didn't think that banking box was going to be very good when I first heard about it, but actually, as it turns out, I'm really that's been super cool and super duper helpful. So yeah, there we go. That's what we've been up to.
Alrighty, sounds good, and we'll be back next week for another check-in, and I have a feeling at that point things are about to get interesting once we start tacking a little bit more accuracy on, and some of the other effects that are coming up next. Alright, you can go next, Tanis. What do you got?
Alrighty, well, let's see. My highest skills in combat are I've got 80 defense, 80 magic. My highest gathering, I'm at about 73 mining right now. Around 66 in smithing. I think I will hit invention by mid next week.
Ooh!
Nice. Yeah, which
That's a big one.
Very forward to. Yes. We're sitting at about 913 total level and about 8.1 mil overall.
So you've been making good progress, too, in terms of everything that you've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
You still glad you chose divination as your first gathering? Because that was one of the first double takes we did last week.
Yeah, well, and the reason I did it was for porters, and that's actually what I'm working on right now. I've kind of taken the last day and a half to grind out porters, but they are going to come in really handy as the mining levels go up, and less banking with that. I may even do some archaeology by the time this is all said and done. Porters are going to be really important for that. Wood cutting, fishing. I mean, you name it, porters are just invaluable. And so not only can I gem mine, but you also get so many geodes from mining that gems aren't really that big of an issue.
Right.
So
Forgot about that.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I went with the divination first. And once I started seeing my divination and my smithing going up, I'm like, wait a minute, if I have to cut these gems for porters. Oh, there's my crafting going up. Oh crap, I've got invention. Ooh, with invention I can get all the skill outfits. Let's go. Like it'll touch everything, and it'll just make everything even better.
And
and I'm doing Yak Track too on Fresh Start.
Of course. I mean, it's just skill and kill at this point, and oddments really, because we don't get any of the stuff during the competitive phase. But is something. Oh, so you're actually following the Yak Track. You're just not doing skill and kill.
Well, yeah, I'm doing whatever, but
okay.
I'm kind of hoping at the end of it we might get the stuff, or at least the boost.
Yeah, fair. Fair. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's actually really interesting in terms of invention and the push you're making for that. So I'm glad to hear that that's working out so well for you.
There's a lot of there's a lot of interplay between the skills when you sit down and kind of start mapping it out and thinking about it. Yeah.
Especially when you have to train it without an economy.
Yes. Exactly.
That's the beauty.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have anything else, Tanis. If you're not, I'll use that to pivot into mine.
That's it.
Okay, and I'm still on the Hetz Oasis farming kick, but since we've talked last week, I've hit 84 farming. I have the ranch out of time running with frogs. I have the manor farm running with chinchompas and spiders. I am waiting for my second mushroom person to get the mushroom people going on that, and then for people who knows how the player-owned farm works, that's when the beans will really, really start rolling in.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole plan with this is to have the farm supplementing Hetz Oasis and in effect just keep AFKing whenever I'm able to at Hetz, and this has actually proved to work very, very well for the farming training methods. Case in point, level 84 farming. I am making money with farming, believe it or not, which is something I did not imagine happening in Fresh Start, because what's happening with that is that I'm getting the golden roses from the flower bushes at Hetz, and people are buying them to bait the croc hunting things at Hetz to get the powder of penance.
Oh wow!
Because that powder of penance is the one that restores prayer points.
Oh, penance, yeah, yep. Sorry.
So yeah, and this has all resulted in me sitting at about rank 29, rank 30 farming, depending on the time of day.
Awesome.
Very nice.
So you've moved up a lot of you have moved up a lot of ranks, because you were, I think you're in the 40s when I spoke to you the other day.
Yeah, so and you know what? That's credit really to. That's credit to the farm coming online. So, and that's one thing I noticed early on when I was looking at the people in the top 30 who were training farming. None of them had even gone to 40 construction yet for medium pens.
Oh wow!
At that point, I haven't looked recently if they have, but that's definitely an oversight on some people for that, because you do need to take a break. You do need to take a few hours to go get your spiders and such, and go get your mushroom people by harvesting either bitter cap or morchella mushrooms. They're fairly common with that, but it's definitely something that's going to reward you in the end with that. And I'll just also use the opportunity to remind people to do the daily challenges, and this is also a thing for you, Parnassia, since you're relatively new. Just make sure you cycle through the daily challenges and get rid of the starter ones, so you can actually start getting the ones that go in towards your skills. Like I got a really good set today of combat, prayer, and divination, and anytime we can get a prayer daily challenge at this point, it's good, because most of the prayer training I've done has actually come from those daily challenges, so they're a good thing to be doing, and that's the reminder
No, I did
this.
mine yesterday, but you did actually remind me because I didn't even look at them today. So I've got construction, agility, and cooking today.
Yeah. So
very good, yes.
And overall, Fresh Start is just such a refreshing
It's
thing.
fun.
Yeah,
it really is. I am shocked at how much fun I am having just redoing everything, and it's different to Iron Man accounts too. It's really different to an Iron Man account. So I'm loving it.
Yeah, and I'm really waiting to see what happens once I get higher level farming, because and this is a good thing about the way I'm doing my account, is that I'm able to put pretty much all the GP I'm getting from the flowers back into farming, and I've been slow buying a lot of the seeds that I'm going to need later on post 100 farming once I have the bean supply. And you know what's happening with those? Those you get growth potions, yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And the most interesting part about it for me, and this will be the last thing, is that I've done farming on 3 accounts now. I did the original one without the player-owned farm. I did the skill pier with the player-owned farm, and now this one is a weird hybrid where I'm not even touching the traditional trees, and I'm only getting to player-owned farm later with a much, much reduced economic impact of how much that's actually going to have on this. And it's just a very, very different to see all the different ways you can train one skill and what the different game type is doing to kind of tip RuneScape on its head. So I'm really appreciating this, still taking notes along the way of what's been happening. So I'm having a blast. But we do have the first set of RSBANDB Fresh Start Worlds achievements. If you want us to track your stats, and if you want your Fresh Start achievements read out on the podcast, just head to update.show/FSW, enter your RuneScape name, and we'll start tracking you. And I got our first batch of Fresh Start Worlds 99s. We don't have any 120s yet, but they're 99s. So starting off, we have Jingles FSW1 with 99 Constitution on the 5th. He also got 99 Magic on the 3rd. Continuing on the 3rd, we have FSW Mage God with 99 Magic, 99 Constitution, and 99 Defense. Then we also have Battle/F with 99 Divination on the 2nd, and Pilfer Point, otherwise known as Thieves, with 99 Thieving on September 30th.
Figured that was
that's
him.
That's a very, very early thieving on there, so congrats to him for that.
Very nice.
Do we know what level they come in on in the overalls, or?
I will get you that information after we do the rest of the achievements.
Yep.
So I gotta look that up.
All right, so moving to the main game achievement, we have Duke Juker with 120 Slayer on October 5th. Sparty Pants with 120 Agility on the 5th. Worst Tasker with 99 Mining on the 5th.
And moving on, we have Muse with 99 Archaeology on October 4. Underking with 120 Hunter on October 3rd. Then on the 1st, we have 2 achievements, which is Fire Ifrit with 200 Magic XP and God Shaman with 99 Crafting.
And also on October 1st, Tim 2 with 120 Hunter. September 30th, Zabros with 99 Woodcutting and 99 Cooking. And last but certainly not least, September 29th, Lol Monster with 99 Herblore.
Nicely done, folks. And Thieves is currently on Pilfer Point at rank 62 thieving overall, so keeping the top 100 presently. Yeah. So we'll have to watch and wait to see what happens as that race closes out.
Come on, Thieves. I expect you at least top 50, dude.
Alrighty. Pick of the week. Pernasius, you got one for us.
Yeah, this is one that's been recommended by a few friends, and it's a superhero show, and I'm thinking, geez, not another one. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's called The Boys. And it is totally different to a lot of those ones you've seen out there. It's sort of how I expect superheroes really to be. Basically, general storyline is a bunch of superheroes work for a company. There's a company called Voight, which which has contracts with all these superheroes. Now, Voight, back in the day, I mean, everyone thought these superheroes were just born, the next evolution point of humans, but it wasn't. Voight had done vaccine tests on all these children, and they all got different superheroes powers. The main guy is called Homelander, and he's basically got the powers of Superman: bulletproof, can fly, super strength, heat vision and such. He's a total psychopath. He's just, everything's about him. Humans are a subspecies type thing, and there's a little nerdy guy whose name is Hugh. His girlfriend gets killed by one of these top superheroes, which are called the Seven. So the 7 greatest superheroes, basically, and then there's all the sort of under ones. And he gets sort of contacted by another guy, vigilante type guys who are trying to, bring out the truth about these superheroes. And it's very graphic, gory. It's based on a comic book series, but really well done. And as I said, really brings out what you expect from superheroes and people who are given that sort of power. It's a really good sort of allegory for what humans are like, people with power using that power to put themselves above everyone else and such. And that one group of people who are trying to say, hey, they're not the good guys, they're all claiming to be and such. So it's got 3 seasons. I've watched the first 2 seasons this week, sort of binge watch. It's one of those shows you sort of watch and go, oh wow, what's going to happen, and you just sort of keep going. Here in Australia, it's got rated R, but I've just looked it up on IMDb. It says TVMA, so I believe IMDb bases on America, so they have actually.
Yeah, that's about the same thing as a rated R, I'd imagine.
Okay, fair enough.
MA is the highest.
Okay, fair enough. Amazon Prime, if you've got it, then I would assume a lot of us do have that because of all the bonuses you get with your Twitch Primes and things like that. So
hey, this series has Carl Urban and Jack Quaid in it. Carl Urban was Bones McCoy on the Kelvin Star Trek. It's also got Jack Quaid who voices Boimler on Lower Decks. That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's got some really big names in it. It's as I said, just a really good show and different. It's not what I expected. Really good. A really good sort of look at what society is really like. How people abuse power, can get corrupted easily, things like that. Jesse T. Usher, people will know him from a lot of shows. He actually plays A-Train on this, who's the super speedster. For anyone out there, your Flash type character. But yeah, check it out. Really, really good. As I said, it is MA. It is very, very graphic in its violence and things like that. So if you are against that, don't do it. But if you don't mind that, have a look and enjoy.
Alrighty, sounds good. And with that, I think we could wrap this episode up. Anybody else have anything before we go? Going once, going twice, gone. All right. Subscribe to the podcast, folks. Is the best way to get the show. It'll be delivered automatically to you each and every week. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Pocket Casts, Spotify, Stitcher, more, Amazon as well for anybody who has an Amazon device. And, of course, I also need to mention YouTube at youtube.com/RSBANDB. There, you can find the video version of the show and the nibbles. Do like and subscribe there. Greatly helps the channel out, helps us out with discovery, and, just with some of the things that we talk about, raises the profile of them, and as we've been going on about, very, very important, especially with Fresh Start. So, with that being said, we'll see you guys next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
See ya.
Bye.
Adios.